What is up, my lazy gamers, and welcome back to another Risk of Rain 2 mod review. Today I bring you a mod by Popcorn Factory, and they have created Wisp from a Warframe and put it into Risk of Rain 2. So let's go ahead and get started and take an overview look of just what they have created. So we're gonna go ahead and get started with the passive for Wisp, and this passive allows Wisp to not take any fall damage, but when you would have taken fall damage, you instead are stunned for 1 second in a cool pose, by the way. And the second part to this passive is that the character starts with their very own equipment, but we'll talk about that equipment in a little bit. First, I'd like to talk about the primary Fulmin. So Fulmin is the gun that this Warframe starts with, and it comes with two types of firing modes. So it has a semi-automatic and an automatic firing mode. Now these two modes change the way that the gun fires. So the semi-automatic is a 5-shot shotgun that uses up 10 of the 60 stacks that your primary has. Now the full auto is exactly that, a fully automatic rifle that uses 1 stack at a time, but you can just hold down the button to fire away. Now, as I said, the gun comes with a 60 stack of bullets that you can use for this, and you can change the firing modes using your mouse wheel. Now for the secondary reservoirs, you can choose between a vitality orb or a haste orb. Now these two orbs you can quickly change between them by just using your secondary ability, but when you hold down the secondary ability, you can then place that specific orb that you've chosen, and each one gives you a different type of buff. So the vitality reservoir goes ahead and gives you 300 health burst healing, and then gives you a 30 HP per second regen, and the buff lasts for 30 seconds. Now to get the buff, you just simply stay within the circle, the green circle that appears with that reservoir, but after you leave the circle, that buff starts to tick down for those 30 seconds. And the same thing goes for the haste one. Now the haste one gives you a attack speed buff and a movement speed buff, and like I said, also lasts for 30 seconds. Now for your utility, the Will of the Wisp, you can cast this utility and it sends a spectral image flying forward. This image doesn't really care much about obstructions in its way, and it will do whatever it can to move around them, whether that means going up or around them, to the best of its ability. And you can recast the ability to then teleport to wherever that wisp has gone. Now this is an extremely useful ability that allows you to get into a lot of places that you probably shouldn't, and it can even help you get into the boss area on the moon very quickly. So very cool utility. Now for the special breach surge, when you cast this special, you open a dimensional breach and overwhelm the enemies nearby. In a small range around you, you then stun all the enemies and you debuff them so that they take double damage from all sources for the next 8 seconds. And finally, we have the equipment that the character starts with through its passive, Soul Gate. Now when you use this equipment, you shoot out a beam that irradiates solar plasma, hitting enemies for 10 seconds, and has a 40% chance to ignite any enemies hit. Now you can move around while shooting the beam, but if you press any of the abilities above, it will automatically cancel it. Now overall, this is an amazing character mod that was created by this person. I think that they were able to give this character enough uniqueness through the secondary ability that it is well worth a look at. Now with the secondary, you have the ability to choose between 2 buffs, and each buff that you place down, they do stay out throughout the entire level. You only get 6 of them, so with those 6 per level, you can place them all around the map, and each one has their own uses, both with the amazing health regen that helps you stay alive during key battles and fights with bosses and things like that, and the haste, which allows you to move around the map at an extremely quick pace so that you're able to get to as many boxes as possible and that's only the first unique part of this character. Then you have the primary, which has the 2 firing modes. And for me personally, I used a lot of the semi-automatic starting out in the early rounds because of the high burst damage, and then moved on to later rounds. I would switch over to the automatic because the proc chance on the automatic is extremely high. I found that while having 2 stacks of the void lenses, I was able to get a ton of the auto kill procs to go off. A bit broken and probably needs to be toned down just a little bit to probably bring it into spec. Maybe take a look into how Multi's railgun works when it comes to procs, because I think it's a little bit too high, and for only having 2 stacks of the void lenses, I should not be getting as many of the procs off as I should be. At least that's how it feels. It feels like it's a little overtuned in that sense, but I feel like that's one of the few items that it's kind of really only working with. And you'd also would see a lot of rockets being fired out with the ATG procs, because it would pretty much just be constant. As long as you're firing, you're getting a ton of ATG procs just because of how high the proc coefficient was. So it definitely needs a little bit tuning there, but having the 2 different modes is always extremely useful and fun. So that's another unique thing to this character that's awesome. And then for the third one I want to talk about is having its own unique equipment, which pretty much just becomes an ultimate that you get to use. Now this ultimate is extremely cool. You get to shoot a beam. It doesn't have a ton of range, but it does do a lot of damage, and you can combine it with your special to be able to do tons of damage to bosses very quickly. So overall, this character has a lot of cool stuff going for it, a lot of cool animations, and its own unique play style that just works. So overall, I think this is an extremely cool character to check out if you do want to check it out. Now, if you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. Please leave a like and subscribe so that I can continue making more of these videos. And if you'd like to see any other mods, just leave a comment down below and I will go ahead and take a look and hopefully make another video on it. So I'll see you guys next time.